Looking at it from a marketing perspective, price is one of the most key marketing tools, and it is part of marketing technically. But it's actually the odd one out. It's the only one that brings in money rather than actually costs money. Advertising costs money. Marketing activities generally cost money. But price is the only one that brings in money. And therefore, price is probably one of the most important marketing skills to get. Too high a price leads to too lower sales. Too lower price means you're not going to make any money. And to give you an example, there was, and I know there are some design crafts here, a few years ago there was a design crafts girl that was very, very proud of all her sales. And I asked her how much she was selling them for, and she told me. And then I asked her how much it cost her to make them. It cost twice as much to make them as it did that she was selling them for. So she was losing money on every sale. She hadn't realised that she'd got to price in all sorts of extra things. So she was very proud of the sales, but she was losing money. So price is a really, really, really complicated thing to get right, but really important, especially for those that are making bespoke items. It's very easy to price, I'm going to say a pen, I was going to show you one. We know what a pen should be priced. But a lot of you that are making handcrafted items, things that are very difficult to compare one with another, it is very, very difficult to get right. So we're going to give you 2 or 3 different pricing methods and how to generate how to look at the full cost of your product and how to generate the price for that. Price should not be set in isolation. If we're going for a high quality brand, then we've got to go for a high price. If we're going for stack them high, sell them cheap, then we're going to sell them. Our price should be low. So it's not independent of everything that we do with marketing and everything that we do with our business. There is a fine difference between cost and value. And it's really important to know that. The cost of the product is something that the amount of money you spend to produce it or deliver it. The price is the money or the time or the money or the financial reward for getting that product or service. But the value is what customers are prepared to pay for that product or service. There used to be, and I don't know whether there still is, a restaurant in London that didn't advertise the prices of its food. They just simply asked you to pay what it was worth, what you believed it was worth. They made more money doing that than they did when they advertised their prices on their menu. Why? Because the customers placed a higher value than they believed the price was. So value is all about the price you are happy to pay, not the price you are paying, potentially. To maximise your profitability, to consider what your price should be, you need to think about the benefits people gain. The more benefits, typically the higher the price. We need to think about the criteria for which our customers are buying. What is the decision-making process? So for a graphic designer, is it important to deliver a low-cost service, or is it important to deliver on time or deliver quickly? For a restaurant, is it important that you go for quality of food, or do you go for price? Price is not always the most important factor. If you've got the money to buy a Ferrari, it won't matter whether it's £1 cheaper in the garage next door. You're just going to buy the Ferrari. Ferrari, you know, if you've got the money to buy a Ferrari, you're not going to worry about £1, or you're not going to worry about the price. So what is the most important factor for customers? Only you will be able to determine that. So is it speed of delivery? Is it convenience? Is it reliability? Some people will pay a premium for convenience. Just look at our local convenience stores, our local corner shops as they used to be. They're higher price traditionally than the supermarkets. Why? Because it's convenient. So think about what's most important for your customers. And the value is what the customers place on receiving the benefits you provide. So if you can demonstrate those benefits clearly, then you can justify a higher price. The more you benefit those, the more you demonstrate the benefits, the higher price you can deliver. Now, typically, there is a price-quality relationship. Typically, the higher the price, the perceived higher quality. And the lower the price, the perceived lower quality. I'm stressing the perceived word. So, if you guys are all creating something really nice, handmade and bespoke, you've taken hours to produce it, it's made of the finest materials, and you sell it at a low price, people are going to perceive that it's lower quality. Perceive. So be careful about how you price things. Because how you price it in comparison with everyone else will give customers the perception of higher or lower quality. And I'll give a very quick demonstration of that. Supermarkets are very, very good and an easy example for this. And I'm sure most of you will probably agree with this. So we've got Waitrose, M&S, potentially Harrods, all those sorts of higher quality but certainly higher price foods, yeah? Happy to say that? They're at the top. Waitrose being a little bit higher, M&S slightly down. Sainsbury's, probably reasonably in the middle these days. Asda and Tesco fighting price wars. But their food, perception of lower quality slightly, some would argue. Well, certainly to Sainsbury's and M&S. Yes, you're still alive, good. And then we've got the likes of Aldi, Lidl, and all those sorts of people at the bottom. And again, if Aldi and Lidl saw this, they would probably disagree. And in fact, Aldi and Lidl in Europe are very well known, don't offer the perception of low quality. But they do here, and they're trying to change that. But that's pretty much in agreement, yeah? Higher the price, higher the quality in terms of supermarkets. And we can do the same for any product or service traditionally. We can take it a little bit further, and we use this, this map of perceived added value. So right at the bottom, we've got low price and low quality. So it's our traditional no frills. We're going to stack them as high as we can and sell them as cheap as we can. We're going to rely on our business selling lots to make any sort of money. So our traditional profit margin is going to be very, very small on each product we sell, but we're going to sell lots of them. So that's how we're going to make our money. And then we move round the clock. We go to a low price mode. So traditionally, your kind of Tesco's, your Tesco's home brand range, the Smart Price is it called these days. So again, they're still selling high amounts. They're perceiving a slightly lower quality, but they're positioning themselves, they're marketing themselves purely on low price. Then we get to number 3, which is traditionally a hybrid model. 3, 4, and 5 look at differentiating, making ourselves different based on something other than just price. So we can afford to charge a higher price, start to afford a higher price because we're differentiating ourselves, we're making ourselves different, and we're adding value. So you'll see the higher we go up, the higher value we're demonstrating. And then we come round to 6, which is pretty much where a lot of people lie in terms of there is a higher price, but there is a perceived standard value. And this is a dangerous place to be, and it's starting to become more and more dangerous because businesses don't tend to survive unless they can offer an increased price with an increased value. And then these two positions are certainly not where you want to be. So high price and perceived no added value or perceived low value. To put a bit of context on that, we have the likes of Audi, EasyJet, Ryanair, no frills. You have to pay for everything possible on Ryanair and EasyJet. even to the extent of Ryanair threatened to make you pay €1 to use the toilet whilst on the planes at one point. So they rely on selling lots and lots and lots of seats to get their profit. We move to the low price area. Primark. No, there's no real high quality to their items. So there's less perceived added value. You just go there, you know what you're buying, it's fairly cheap, fairly low cost, but you know it's reasonable. Then you've got a hybrid model which seeks to differentiate. So IKEA, whilst offering a low price, relatively low price, can offer their work in a completely different way. So it's all flat pack furniture, it's all unique sizes. It's justified in terms of they are different to what's currently going on, or what was currently going on. And likewise, Tesco have become a hybrid because they've grown and they offer such a wide product range. So not only do they offer the low price, low value things, but they offer the mid-price, high value items as well. Differentiation, well, Apple is a prime candidate for that. Everything they do is differentiated on quality, perceived quality, the aspirational brand, so they can charge a higher value to it. They are a great example of someone that's gone in to charge a high value because their brand is so strong. Jacobs Creek is an interesting one. How do we think Jacobs Creek have changed the wine market? It's a well-known case. Nothing? Wine is wine is wine. It'll get you all drunk. You'd usually pay, what, £5, £6 for a bottle of Jacobs Creek. And there are lots of other wines of £5, £6 in the supermarkets. So why is Jacobs Creek different? Well, Jacobs Creek and a lot of what's known as the New World wine producers, America, Australia, Chile, Argentina, those sorts of places, they don't sell wine by the chateau or by the vineyard. They sell wine by the brand, which is easier for a customer, if you don't know a lot about wine, easier for you to choose because you have that reliability. It's like hotels. You go and visit a Hilton because you know every Hilton's going to have a very similar quality to it. And that's what Jacobs Creek did to the wine industry. They changed, they differentiated, they made themselves different. So when you go into a supermarket and you get puzzled by all those French vineyards, you think, actually, no, I'm just going to go for a bottle of Jacobs Creek because I know that's safe. The last bottle of Jacobs Creek I had, I liked. And there's the same with Ernest and Julio Gallo, the two big wine producers. But they changed the wine market completely. And the French, Italians, the traditional wine merchants were really, wine producers were really riled by it. But they have changed the wine market dramatically. And then we've got the focus differentiation. We've got one product that we really, really want to throw, and it is really different. And Lexus are a great example of that. They pitched their high price model against the likes of Mercedes, but differentiated away from it. And Prius, the Toyota Prius. Again, they had a mid-range model, but they differentiated it, they made it different based on the hybrid technology, based on the increased fuel consumption. So you all sit here being mesmerised by this. How it relates to you guys and your ideas is you need to know which one you're aiming for your thoughts, for your products, for your services. And I would suggest, especially the design craftspeople, will be in one of those two. You'll be differentiating based on high quality. You'll be differentiating based on high value, based on the time it's taken, the homemade, the bespoke nature to what you're making. So getting to the kind of meat of it, how do we price? How do we work out how much our items are going to be? Well, there's three methods. Cost-orientated pricing, competition-based pricing, and market-based pricing. So one looks at how much does it cost us to make. We add a little bit of a profit margin, and that's what we're going to sell it at. One is looking at what our competition are doing, and this is where that one's difficult with specifically with your design crafts people. And one looks at what the market will accept. So it's taking 3 different approaches. There is no one right method. Most businesses look at a blend of all 3. So cost-orientated pricing, or what we know as full cost pricing, or the university would class it as something called full economic costing. So what we do is we try and include all of the costs, absolutely all of the costs, into the product. That means, in essence, we can increase the cost. We have to increase the cost with decreasing sales, which goes against any common sense. Common sense would mean that if we are not selling as many, we should drop the price, potentially. The problem with this is that there is just that. We have to increase the cost for decreasing sales. We have to set our sales price based on sales estimates, which for some of you, you're not even trading, so how on earth can you do that reliably? It focuses purely on your costs and not what the customers see as value, or indeed the customers will accept as price. But it does, and most importantly, give you an indication of the absolute bare minimum price you can charge. And you don't fall down the trap of charging too little for your product and losing money for each one you sell. So to go through it very, very briefly, figures on obviously potentially everyone's strength. So we have got the direct costs. So the direct costs of a product is the cost of the materials that you have taken to make it. So the cost of the clay or the paper or whatever it might be. We have fixed costs, and fixed costs are there whether we're selling items or not. So they are things like marketing, they are things like office rent or studio rent. They are salary costs if you're hiring staff, utilities costs, electric, gas, heat, power, internet, phone, those sorts of things. Things that are going to be there whether you sell anything or not. So in this example, we've got direct costs of £2. So each item is going to cost us £2 to make. We have fixed costs of £200,000. We're going to make 100,000 sales, or that's what we're looking at. So we can say our costs per unit are £2. We can say our fixed costs, which is simply fixed costs divided by our expected sales, is £2. So our full economic cost for our product is £4. You with me? Happy? Good. We've got a markup, so we have a profit margin. We've set that, again, for ease of maths, at 10%. You can set it at whatever figure you want. There is no right and wrong answer. So we know that we're going to want to charge about £4.40 minimum. And that will give us 40p profit on every item we sell, if we sell 100,000. If we don't sell 100,000, then we're way off. That's the problem with this model. If we sell more than 100,000, then great, we're laughing. But there is no contingency to move. It's not very flexible. And as you can see, if we sell only 50,000 this year, our direct costs are £2 still, but our fixed costs increase to £4 because we've got our 200,000 divided by 50,000 this time makes 4. So naturally, our product price goes up to £6, which doesn't make any sense at all. So it's a fairly rigid model. So use it with some awareness and some alarm bells. The most important thing, though, is this bit, which it allows you to work out the minimum cost of your, the minimum price for your product. We can look at direct cost pricing, but it doesn't cover the full cost. We can take out the fixed costs, and we can hope that other products or other sales will soak up that. In essence, it means that the company, the business, will be making a loss for each one of its products it sells. It's very much more useful though when you're selling a service, because service means you can be flexible. If you're selling a service, so if you're doing training like I am now, I can only be in one place at one time. So if my diary is empty tomorrow, I can sell that at a lower price, because if I don't sell it, then that diary is blank tomorrow and I don't earn any fees for that. And I can't ever get that back. So we can be flexible with a service, not like we can with a product. So that's why you'll see hotel rooms or flights changing price quite dramatically depending on how quickly or how early you book them, because they cannot store that. Once that aeroplane has gone with only one person on it, they're never going to get the revenue, the money from those other seats. The only downside is that with a service, there may be a risk to people purchasing late or people getting used to the way we're doing things, which is why we change things up. And you know, Ryanair, EasyJet have cottoned onto that a little bit. But there are all sorts of hotel comparison sites now that have come up purely for this reason. Direct costs indicate the lowest possible price of which it is sensible to take business. So you can play with it, but any money is some money in the case of a service and an empty diary. We can look at competitor-orientated pricing, but this becomes difficult because some of you will be creating unique items that are very difficult to ascertain direct competition for. We take, I don't know, let's take a necklace for example. Some of you will be hand making a necklace which has unique, rare ingredients to it, rare items within it. And you'll compare that against a Topshop necklace of £10. So you've got a unique item that's been handmade and taken you 10 hours to make versus a Topshop item that's probably taken 2 minutes to make and made with mass-produced goods. One's £10, yours is, well, if we took competitor-orientated pricing, £10. But we know that's awfully unfair. So competitor-orientated pricing will not allow for a lot of what you're doing, which is the handmade bespoke items. However, it is useful if you're going into more of a mass-produced market where there is little difference between one item and the other. So a bottle of water is a bottle of water is a bottle of water. We know there is a going rate for that. You wouldn't expect to pay £2 for a small bottle of water, whereas you would perhaps expect to pay 70 to 80p. So you can't therefore charge £2 if the going rate is 70 or 80p. It goes against traditional marketing theory because what we're saying is that we're the same as everyone else, so we're going to have to charge the same as everyone else. Marketing theory states that we need to show what is different about our products, and therefore we need to price our products accordingly to what is different. So it traditionally goes against what is there, but again, it gives you a good benchmark as to what other people are doing. I would strongly recommend any of you that are going to do this, is go and have a look at what your competitors are charging. If you can't find out, visit various, whatever it might be, trade fairs, exhibitions, craft fairs. Go and find out, make those comparisons. But be aware that there will be intricate differences between your items and what else is out there. There is a slight caveat to competitor pricing, and it's one that I suffer from almost every day of my working life, which is something called competitive bidding, or what I know as tendering. So those that are offering larger scale services or larger scale products traditionally to the public sector, like universities, hospitals, local government, councils, etc., you are likely to suffer from something called tendering. Usually if it's around £50,000 or upwards, you have to then write a competitive bid. And that competitive bid can be onerous. It's long-winded. Usually my tenders are about 1.5 inches thick. And you don't see what everyone else is doing. You don't know what price everyone else is going to put in. So it's a horrible process to go through, but you may be in it if you're looking at higher quality, higher quantity items. Market-orientated pricing is very much more complicated, but it takes into effect everything more, just everything around what's going on in the market, a wider range of factors. So we've got things like costs, competition, how we explain what we're doing, the value we demonstrate to our customers, our marketing strategy, any price-quality relationship that may be there, and any negotiation margins. So when we price something new, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, by the way. We've already explained competition. So we need to know what our competition is. I've already explained costs. So we take into account our cost. To a certain degree, negotiation margins are what you would expect to be. So if I asked, if you were selling an item for £20 and I said 15, can you afford to give that discount? Simple as that. How do we know? Well, we go back to our cost-orientated pricing. So with any deal you are going to get into, and this is often in the case of if you're making bespoke items and you want to sell them into retail, is that retail will want that profit margin. So they will be looking for a negotiation margin. So the difference between what you are prepared to sell at and what they are prepared to buy at. So some it's as much as 200%. So they will expect to buy an item for £10 if the recommended retail price is £20. Price-quality relationships we've already discussed. Our marketing strategy, what are we going to do? What does it represent? Our marketing strategy will tell us whether we're going to go for a high-quality marketing aspect, marketing method, or a low-quality one. Are we going to stack them high, sell them cheap? Or are we going to differentiate ourselves based on high quality? But there are lots of other aspects to our marketing strategy. Who are we going to target? Can they afford the price we're going to charge? How are we going to make it convenient for the customer? All those sorts of aspects that we would have covered in previous marketing sessions. What value are we going to demonstrate to the customers, and how easy is it to explain? When we buy a packet of chewing gum, we don't necessarily need to explain the value, the benefits of that over others. We know we just go in for a brand we like, price is always reasonably the same, and we'll just pick one. We don't have a long, complicated buying decision on it. Typically, the higher the price, the longer the buying decision. The longer the buyer decision, the more value we have to demonstrate. The more we have to turn around and say, we are good. When we're introducing new products, we need to price them accordingly. And we price them accordingly based on two things. Based on our positioning, so where we want to be within the market. If we go back to that, if we were launching a new supermarket, where are we going to position ourselves on this continuum? Are we going to be low quality, low price, or are we going to be somewhere in the middle or somewhere at the top? Each target market will have very much more thoughts about the value that they wish. Each target market will have an idea about price and an idea as to how much they wish to pay for an item. So who are you going to target? This goes back to previous marketing of, do you know who your customers are? Are they dinkies, double income, no kids? Or are they skiers, spending kids' inheritance? Where do they come from? What is the typical, stereotypical image of your customers? And how much money have they got to pay for your items? You can attract multiple target markets. Just look at George Clothing as an example. Asda's brand of clothing, George. and they attract multiple markets, and they do that by creating 2 adverts. But they do that by creating 2 different value statements. And to explain what I mean about a value statement, with their clothing, when you get to school terms, they have 2 adverts. One before 6 o'clock in the evening, and that's how cool their clothes are, how brilliant you will look in the playground when you wear them. And one after 6 o'clock in the evening, which talks about how stain resistant the clothing is, how scuff resistant they are, how easy they are to iron. Why? We're looking at 2 different markets. We're looking at the children and trying to attract them to buy, or pester power, as it's called for parents. Or we're looking at the parents to buy. Both have got very, very different value statements. Both are after the same clothes, but for completely different reasons. So we need to know which one, what our target markets will be attracted by. All of this is just simply called benefit-orientated marketing. And we need to orientate the benefits to our customers. We can offer different prices to our customers if we can demonstrate different value. Positioning, as I've said, is a blend of, is a choice of where we want to compete and how we want to compete. The objective is to get a distinctive position in the market. Apple don't compete on price. All of their items are fairly high price in comparison to what else is out there. They compete on consistency, they compete on credibility, and to a certain degree, the clarity of their offer. We wouldn't necessarily say they're price competitive. But the object is to create and maintain a distinctive place in the market, which I think everyone would say Apple have done. So much so, everyone tries to copy. Little pop quiz. I'm hoping everyone gets them. Clarity is all about making sure our messages are simple, clear, and memorable. 5 or 6 well-known brands, well-known taglines, just to prove that communication is not as easy as you think. Just do it? Yes. Every little helps? Yes. I'm loving it? Yes. Famously sung by Justin Timberlake. I can remember it. Have a break? Yes. The ultimate driving machine? Yes. Bottom one. Where do you want to go today? Anyone? Sorry? Good point, but no. 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 Sorry? Garmin. No, no, you're in the completely wrong fields. It's nothing to do with travel.
Oh, British Gas.
No. Intel. The people that make your computer chips. The reason I put that in is just that. It's a simple message, clear and memorable. No, it's failed. None of you remembered what that was. Very clear, very obvious, very well known, but none of you remember it. So they failed. All of these, pretty much everyone got. So they work. So even the big companies can get the clarity of position wrong. So we need to make a clear and obvious statement about our products that is memorable, but more importantly, that relates to what we're trying to do. If it doesn't relate, we've got to throw lots of money at it to make sure people do relate it to our products. Consistency. You are bombarded, and there is some research to say that you are bombarded with 20,000 different brand messages a day. And I was thinking this in the car driving in. And you just drive past a high street and there's just thousands and thousands of different images that you just in that one small part of road. So you've got to be consistent. You've got to break through the noise. And a consistent message is how we do that. And Heineken and Carlsberg in particular were very, very good at this. Incidentally, they've dropped it now but for many years, and most of you in this room are probably too young to remember, they rang with the tagline of probably the best. And they played on it, and they did very, very different things. But they used it. They were consistent with it. They were consistent with the language that they used, with their colour. If I'd just left this up without the bottle on it and without the Carlsberg logo, most of you probably would have got that it was Carlsberg, just based on that deep green. It's all consistent. So if you're creating something, if you're creating marketing material, if you're creating that brand, please, 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 please be consistent. That's the only thing I want you to take away from today, if nothing else. Be credible. It must be believable. What you are offering, your position, must be believable. For those of you old enough to remember in this room, a car company called Lada, which isn't many looking around the room, there are lots of standing jokes about it. Just Google Top Gear and you'll see an episode based on Lada. Lada were not very reliable. They were an Eastern Bloc car company, and they were well known for not being high performance. However, they did try and offer a change of that thought by providing an advert that offered a Lada rallying through the countryside. Well, actually, it didn't work. No one believed that it would go that fast. No one believed it would be reliable enough to actually go through dirt tracks and not fall apart. So we've got to make sure that everything that we offer is credible. The image that you provide is credible. And this is really, really important for you guys that are doing these handmade items, because you've got to offer credibility. You've got to be able to demonstrate that credibility. Why are your items really, really good? What is the value based on your items? And we do that by telling stories, potentially, offering narration. So what inspired you to create those pieces? What unique materials have you used? Challenge anyone to buy a packet of salt and vinegar crisps these days. There's only about one manufacturer that still does it, but generally it's Anglesey sea salt and balsamic French vinegar crisps. Why? Because they're offering that additional value in their description. So if you're making things from paper, talk about where the paper originated from. If you're making things from leather, it's Italian full-grade leather. Why? Because we add descriptions. We're offering that added value and that credibility to our products. You don't buy marble, you buy Italian marble. You don't buy leather, you buy Italian leather. Why? I don't know, but it seems to be typical that that's what you do. So you offer credibility to your products by offering a description, by offering narration to your products. And the final one is talking about competitiveness. You must have a competitive edge, something that, to the customer, the competition is failing to do. And whilst I said at the start of this little section that Apple weren't necessarily competitive, now they have been in the past. When Apple first launched its iPod, it was really, really expensive. It was the first iPod with ease of use. It was all Apple devices are based on their simplicity and ease of use. I don't know whether this is an urban myth or not, but I was told that there are 3-year-old children that go into houses and try and move the static photographs because they believe it's an iPad, picture on an iPad. I've not got that at home quite just yet, but I'm not surprised it's too far off. So when they looked at it, they had that competitive edge. They had this iPod that they developed, but it was high price. So competitors came in and did lower priced items, even to the extent that they did them in tiny little USB sticks. But Apple still retained its competitive edge because of its ease of use. The screen, the function, the way it works. But Apple thought about this, and they thought, well, actually, some people are going to go for the lower priced item. They're not going to value the design or value the benefits that we offer. So we're going to launch a smaller one that's lower price. That's Apple being competitive, which is the iPod Shuffle. It was still very same, it used the same functionality, didn't have the unique screen that wasn't there for a lot of these, what are they called? You'll have to cut that bit. Thank you, MP3 players. So it didn't have the screen that made it unique at the time for Apple, but still it was a lower priced item, so it made them competitive. So when we launch new products, we can launch them based on typically 4 strategies. We look at something called slow skimming or rapid skimming, or slow penetration and rapid penetration. So slow skimming looks at premium products with a gradual entry. It's a high price, but not a lot of marketing to them. Traditionally, they're testing the market and they will allow word of mouth to build the sales for them. Rapid skimming looks at premium products with a high immediate entry, so they want to make a big impact on the market. And again, Apple is a very good example of that. Whenever they bring out a new phone, the new generation, they throw lots of marketing to it, usually PR, but they want, and they want to form a very quick entry into the market. They form queues and queues and queues. People want to be the first one to have the iPhone 5 or whatever it is now. And then we have something different, which is the lower price end. So low price, low marketing, low promotion is something called slow penetration. So again, we're easing ourselves into the market and probably somewhere where you guys would position yourselves. And then we have rapid penetration, but that's low price, lots of promotion. And again, the Wii. When the Wii first came out, it bucked the trend of advanced games consoles. A lot of them were a lot higher priced, £200–300. The Wii came out at half of that. But there was lots of promotion to it. Again, much of it based on PR. So what method are you going to use? Chances are it will be one of those two, because you won't have the money to put in a lot of promotion to it. Just a few little things about pricing tactics. We can look at being clever with the price that we charge in order to get that little bit more from them. And we look at things like payment structures. So we can offer our client upfront payments or monthly payments. So if you're doing a website or if you're doing some graphic design, you can charge £500 for that website, or you can charge them £30 a month. You get more money from that, but the customer feels more comfortable, specifically if it's a small business that's fairly new. They don't have the big upfront immediate cost. A bit like offering insurance. You guys probably may pay your car insurance monthly, but that costs a little bit more because you don't have the upfront cost to pay it annually, perhaps. You have discounting, offering specially reduced prices, clearing old stock, discount for making multiple purchases. Boots are awfully good at this, which is why I always have about 15 toothbrushes in my house, because it's all 3 for 2. I go in for 1 toothbrush and think, maybe I should get 2, but if I get 2, I'll buy 3. So it's great. They tease you into spending more money, and usually it works. If it's B2B, so business to business, you can offer discount for bulk orders or for quick payment. You've got things like odd value pricing or charm pricing, and this tends to be used a little bit less now. Traditionally in the olden days, before you guys were born and we used cash, retailers would charge £9.99 for an item. They would never charge a round value. Why? Well, it's called charm pricing. You hand over a £10 note for a top, they will give you that top, and you get a penny back as well. Yay! You've got 2 items for one charge. And that's what charm pricing is. I used to run a nightclub many years ago, and we always used to charge £4 or £9 for our tickets. Why? Because when you came to the front door and handed over a nice crisp blue note, you would get a ticket and an extra £1 back, so you'd feel great. actually you all spent it over the bar anyway, so it didn't matter to me. It's called charm pricing. It makes you feel better. These days it's not used as much, simply because you just use the card and there isn't that exchange relationship going on in the same way that it used to be for cash. On a larger scale, and one that is important for some people, is that it might be easier to charge £1 less, just simply because you might get a quicker decision. Often in businesses, if you're selling to businesses, there is a decision-making process whereby people have authorization levels. So if it goes above that level, it needs to go to a separate person, a senior management. So if you don't want that hassle, if you've got that person keyed up, wanting to spend the money, worried that their senior manager may not agree it, just make sure you go under that boundary. You'll get a quicker sale and perhaps an easier sale. And then a good one for supermarkets, loss leaders. So have you got a particular product that will attract people into your online store or your physical store in the hope that it will attract people to buy more items at a higher price? No matter what pricing tactic you use, it is really important to base your price on value. The customers have to see the relative value of the product or service, and the price needs to match that relative value. The price can be less, but not be more than the relative value. You need to make sure you're not charging too much or too little. How do we go about raising prices or lowering prices? Well, we need to model it to make sure it's going to have the required effect on sales, and it's not going to hit the bottom end of our finances, so it's not going to lose us too much money. If you're going to increase your prices, you must always explain why. There are people that increase their price and all of a sudden add something else on, or do it the way that what seems to be chocolate manufacturers and crisp manufacturers do, which is don't increase your price, just increase the amount of product you give them. I'm sure packets of crisps used to weigh far more when I was a child. And likewise, chocolate bars used to be much bigger when I was a child. So there are ways to hide those increases. Give them less, but for the same price. And in summary, because someone was cross for me being late last time, it's important to know your real costs. Your true costs. Work out the bare minimum it's going to cost you for each product and service you offer. Work out the minimum which you can sell it at, and that's based on all of your costs. Find out from customers what each product is worth to them. Do a bit of market research if you can. If you're doing something really innovative and different, be aware of intellectual property difficulties, but I don't want to confuse you on a lot of that. Please, please, please check out what your competitors are doing and make it relevant competitors. Going back to the example, if you're doing handmade necklaces, don't compare them against Next or Topshop. They're mass-produced items. Compare them to a direct competitor if at all possible. If their price is lower than your minimum price, think again, because that's going to kill you, business-wise. So we need to work out a different way of doing it, if that's the case. And we need to add value, or add more value. Be prepared to make pricing changes, and be clear about how you're going to change it. Be clear about how you're going to communicate those changes. And keep checking. This is an iterative process, a cyclical process. So you need to keep doing that. You need to keep doing what your competitors are prepared to pay. Things change. So please, please, please keep doing it. And that's me today.